I'm Mrs. Marquez, a first grade teacher here at Anderson Elementary School, and I'm excited to read from Book the Third of Tale of Despereaux. This will be Chapter 24, titled A Handful of Cigarettes, a Red Tablecloth, and a Hen. Again, reader, we must go backward before we can go forward. With that said, here begins a short history of the life and times of Miggery Sow, a girl who was born into this world many years before the mouse Despereaux and the rat Chiaroscuro. A girl who was born far from the castle, a girl named for her father's favorite prize-winning pig. Miggery Sow was 6 years old when her mother, holding onto Mig's hand and staring directly into Mig's eyes, died. "Ma," said Mig, "Ma, couldn't you stay here with me?" "Oh," said her mother, "who is that? Who is this holding my hand?" "It's me, Ma, Miggery Sow." "Oh, child, let me go." "But I want you to stay here," said Mig, wiping first at her runny nose and then at her runny eyes. "You want," said her mother. "Yes," said Mig, "I want." "Aw, child, what does it matter what you are wanting?" said her mother. And she squeezed Mig's hand once, twice, and then she died, leaving Mig alone with her father, who, on market day in spring soon after his wife's death, sold his daughter into service for a handful of cigarettes, a red tablecloth, and a hen. "Papa," said Mig, when her father was walking away from her with the hen in his arms and a cigarette in his mouth and the red tablecloth draped across his shoulders like a cape. "Go on, Mig," he said. "You belong to that man now." "But I don't want to, Papa," she said. "I want to go with you." And she took hold of the red tablecloth and she tugged on it. "Lord, child," her father said, "and who is asking you what you want? Go on now." And he untangled his fingers from the cloth and turned her in the direction of the man who had bought her. Mig watched her father walk away, the red tablecloth billowing out behind him. He left his daughter. And reader, as you already know, he did not look back, not even once. Can you imagine it? Can you imagine your father selling you for a tablecloth, a hen, and a handful of cigarettes? Close your eyes, please, and just consider it for a moment. Done? I hope that the hair on the back of your neck stood up as you thought of Mig's fate and how it would be if it were your own. Poor Mig. What will become of her? You must, frightened though you may be, read on and see for yourself. Reader, it is your duty. That's the end of this chapter. I hope you look forward to the next chapter. Thank you for listening.
Hello everyone. My name is Mrs. Zhao and I'm the school counselor at Anderson Middle School. I am so excited to finally read to you the Tale of Despereaux. Today I'm going to read chapter 25, A Vicious Circle. Miggery Sow called the man who purchased her uncle, as he said she must, and also, as he said she must, Mig tended Uncle's sheep and cooked Uncle's food and scrubbed Uncle's kettle. She did all of this without a word of thanks or praise from the man himself. Another unfortunate fact of life with Uncle was that he was very much like giving Mig what he referred to as a good clout to the ear. In fairness to Uncle, it must be reported that he did always inquire whether or not Mig was interested in receiving the clout. Their daily exchanges went something like this. Uncle, I thought I told you to clean the kettle. Mig, I cleaned it, Uncle. I cleaned it good. Uncle? Ah, it's filthy. You'll have to be punished, won't you? Mig? Gore, Uncle. I cleaned the kettle. Uncle says, are you saying that I'm a liar, girl? Mig? No, Uncle. Uncle. Do you want a good clout to the ear then? Meg? No, thank you, Uncle. I don't. Alas, Uncle seemed to be as entirely unconcerned with what Meg wanted to as her mother and father had been. The discussed clout to the ear was always delivered, and delivered, I'm afraid, with a great deal of enthusiasm on Uncle's part, and received with absolutely no enthusiasm at all on the part of Meg. These clouts were alarmingly frequent, and Uncle was scrupulously fair in paying attention to both the right and left side of Miggery Sow. So it was that after a time the young Meg's ear came to resemble not so much ears as pieces of cauliflower stuck to either side of her head, and they became about as useful to her as pieces of cauliflower. That is to say that they all but ceased their functioning as ears. Words for Meg lost their sharp edges, and then they lost their edges altogether and became blurry, blankety things that she had a great deal of trouble making any sense of it at all. The less Meg heard, the less she understood. The less she understood, the more things she did wrong, and the more things she did wrong, the more clouts to the ear she received, and the less she heard. This is what is known as a vicious cycle. And Miggery Sow was right in the center of it, which is not, reader, where would anybody would want to be. But then, as you know, what Miggery Sow wanted had never been much concern to anyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining me in reading chapter 25 of the Tale of Despereaux. Have a great day.
Hello, boys and girls and families. It's Mr. Nance with my best friend, Jax. Jax loves when I read to him at night before he goes to sleep. So we decided we're going to read chapter 26 in our book, The Tale of Despereaux. You ready, Jax? Chapter 26 is titled Royalty. When Meg turned 7 years old, there was no cake. There was no celebration, no singing, and no presents. No acknowledgement of her birthday at all, other than Meg saying, Uncle, today I am 7 years old. And Uncle saying in return, did I ask ye how old you were today? Get out of my face before I give ye a good clout to the ear. A few hours after receiving her birthday clout to the ear, Meg was out in the field with her uncle's sheep, when she saw something glistening and glowing on the horizon. She thought for a moment, it was the sun. But then she turned and saw that the sun was in the west, where it should be, sinking to the earth. The thing that shone brightly was something else. Meg stood in the field and shaded her eyes with her left hand and watched the brilliant light draw closer and closer and closer until it revealed itself to be King Philip and his queen Rosemary and their daughter, the young Princess P. The royal family was surrounded by knights in shining armor and horses in shining armor. And atop each member of the royal family's head was a golden crown. And they were all, the king and the queen and the princess, dressed in robes decorated with jewels and sequins, and that glistened and glowed and captured the light of the setting sun, reflecting it back. God, breathed Meg. The Princess P was riding on a white horse that picked its legs up very high and set them down daintily. The P saw Meg standing and staring, and she raised her hand to her. Hello, the Princess P called out merrily, and she waved her hand again. Meg did not wave back. Instead, she stood and watched, open-mouthed, as the perfect, beautiful family passed her by. Papa, called the princess to the king, what is wrong with that girl? She will not wave to me. "Never mind," said the king. "It is of no consequence, my dear, but I am the princess, and I waved to her. She should wave back." Meg, for her part, continued to stare, looking at the royal family, had awakened something deep and slumbering into her. It was as a little small candle had been lit in her interior, sparked to life by the brilliance of the king and the queen and the princess. For the first time in her life, reader, Meg hoped, and hope is like love, a ridiculous, wonderful, powerful thing. Meg tried to name this strange emotion. She put her hand up and touched one of her aching ears, and she realized that the feeling she was experiencing, the hope, the blooming inside of her, felt exactly the opposite of a good cloak. She smiled and took her hand away from her ear. She waved to the princess. "Today is my birthday," Meg called out. But the king and the queen and the princess were way now too far away to hear her. "Today," shouted Meg, "I am 7 years old." What do you think, Jack? Are you ready to go to sleep now?
Hello, my name is Casey Whitson, and I'm here with the United States Marine Corps. Today I'll be reading Chapter 27, A Wish. That night, in the small, dark hut that she shared with Uncle and the sheep, Meg tried to speak of what she had seen. "Uncle," she said. "Eh? I saw some human stars today." "How's that?" "I saw them all glittering and glowing, and there was a little princess wearing her own crown and riding on a little white tippy-toed horse." "What are you going on about?" said Uncle. "I saw a king and a queen and an itty-bitty princess," shouted Meg. "So?" shouted Uncle back. "I would like," said Meg shyly, "I wish to be one of them princesses." "Har," laughed Uncle. "Har, an ugly, dumb thing like you? You ain't even worth the enormous lot I paid for you. Don't I wish every night that I had back that good hen and that red tablecloth in place of you?" He did not wait for Meg to guess the answer to this question. "I do," he said. "I wish it every night. The tablecloth was the color of blood. That hen could lay eggs like nobody's business." "I want to be a princess," said Meg. "I want to wear a crown." "A crown?" Uncle laughed. "She wants to wear a crown." He laughed harder. He took the empty kettle and put it atop his head. "Look at me," he said. "I'm a king. See my crown? I'm a king just like I always wanted to be. I'm a king because I want to be one." He danced around the hut with a kettle on his head. He laughed until he cried. And then he stopped dancing and took the kettle from his head and looked at Meg and said, "Do you want a good clout to the ear for such nonsense?" "No, thank you, Uncle," said Meg, but she got one anyway. "Look here," said Uncle after the clout had been delivered. "We will hear no more talk of princesses. Besides, whoever asked you what you wanted to be in this world, girl?" The answer to that question, reader, as you well know, was absolutely no one. Thank you for letting me read to you today. I'm excited to see what happens next.